I think this intro has to be one of the best intros. I've been telling everyone about our intros. I'm waiting to make the compilation, Andy.
I've got a shit. I got a shit eating grin on my face because I've been waiting for this show for weeks. Like, when there's like shows in the pipeline, and you're like, some shows scare me. Like, oh my God, how are we going to navigate that show? And then there's some shows you're like, oh Jesus,
What did I bring into my
this
life?
is this is one of those shows. We're with Dawn Robertson, who basically likes to provoke the hell out of men, especially ones that believe that men's groups are the be end and the end all of life. And we're going to discuss with her for the hour why she, in quotes, hates men's groups. And we're going to do that on a
wonderful
K-Os.
If only you guys knew
what happens between
in those 20 seconds
that you're not with us. So Dawn Robertson, I am like, I don't know, like I'm this fan of Dawn's, and I've been a secret fan on the sidelines cheering her on. I don't have the balls to write 80% of what she puts online.
I don't think it's because you don't have the balls. It's because you don't want
exactly.
to deal with
You're right. You're right.
Because the moment people start reacting, you become a coach.
I'm like, why do I don't need this shit in my life. That's all I would say is I don't need this. In fact, you saw what I posted yesterday.
What was
I posted, we have our group and it's fucking great. Yeah. And you post, the rules are post something that's intimate that you're having struggling with and just end it with, and it's fucking great. Don't heal me. And I get the stupid idea to post something sweet. In fact, I only learned later, Dawn posted. So I took something that Dawn posted, which I found sweet, posted it in the group, and 20 comments later, I'm like, oh shit, I broke my own rules of the group, which is don't post shit unless it's personal. So I
didn't even see that.
Yeah, you'll see the 20 things.
I don't hate men's groups. They just don't work for me. But I do see, for a lot of men, it can be of service.
Yeah.
Like with everything, as far as I'm concerned, is contextual. It really depends. I also have met a lot of beautiful women in the world who are super strong and grounded.
Yeah.
Who hold men's groups.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah.
I forget her name. So her name is Sophie. Jesus, she's so good at it.
We'll put her in the comments later.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's make it clear. I wrote the title, I Hate Men's Groups, and Dawn let me keep that title, but she says, Andy, I really don't hate men's groups. I just see the hypocrisy and it drives me crazy. So that was, let's be honest, Dawn, is that she really was just, and she said, Andy, but I understand what you're going for, so it's fine. For this show, let's just leave that title. But I mean, if we go through some of the things she's written just probably over the last week, then you'd say, damn, that woman there's no holds barred. It's just.
Shall we just show one?
We could try. Let's just see if we can put on one of the streams of, where she puts her. Let me see. Is this where I have to go back here? Let's see what Dawn has got going on.
This is her Facebook.
Yes. We asked her if it was okay to publish. She said that it was fine. There's Dawn there. They're looking hot with her, little red bandana on. What does this say? Keep getting hotter and weirder, and ain't nobody gonna stop me. Good. The cost of it here. Do I know anyone who knows? Nope, we don't need that one. I got you is powerful as fuck. Like I really got you. Okay, so I'm missing the good ones. I should have followed. So we're all spent perhaps too much time on Facebook getting to know each other. Just wondering when the party is where the party is once this is over. I promise I'll be nice to you boys. This isn't getting to the juicy parts that I'd love to, but. Is all the focus on meditation, calming the nervous system, and self-regulation just a reflection of how much men have been running the spirituality playbook? So if you post that one, look at this, you're going to get 173 comments. I've never had that many comments on anything I've ever posted in my
today
life.
you did.
Did I?
With your book.
With 173?
No,
Well,
73.
let's bring her on and let's dig right into it, because I don't want to fish through her contacts when I can talk to her directly.
Hello.
Hey, Dawn.
Hello. Hi. Thank you for having me on, guys.
So I did,
I already know Andy's speaking in a very high tone voice. He's excited.
Oh,
Like when my right ear is getting like penetrated by his voice, he's excited.
I'm a kid in a candy store right now.
That's awesome.
You've left me like all these candies. Like I didn't get the best ones, unfortunately, because I didn't plan. I just went to your book Facebook. I see you're pasting different things nowadays. It's not only hating on the men group.
It's not only.
Yeah, no, I got that. But can you like
speak a little bit about it?
Yeah, like kind of help me understand, like when did you flip the switch, like to say, oh, this is really getting to be too much?
Oh, that's a good question. You mean my post or just men's work?
No, men's work in general. When did that become a trigger? I say trigger for you, or let's say, when did it start to? Okay, so when did that become a trigger for you?
I would say once I started online dating, which I also post about, right? I posted about my online dating adventures, and people, they think I'm some desperate older woman. I've said, no, I want people to understand what it's like as a woman to be dating online.
Yeah.
And we hide in these conscious bubbles and these woke bubbles and these spiritual bubbles, and we don't realize what's going on out there. And it's a complete shit show. And that's definitely what sparked it.
You know what? I've made jokes on shows about 2 weeks ago that I said all the people that haven't worked their shit out go to Bali, and then they sort of like use it as this refuge of, let me sort of pretend like I'm woke and then avoid all of the real troubles that are in the place I just left. And I realized that you were in that place.
Yes, I did go to Bali.
You're interacting with all the people that I'm treating poorly.
That didn't help. I spent a year and a half in Bali, and I actually had to move away from Ubud because I was just like, people.
Have you been to Zest?
Yes, of course.
Best pizza in town.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah, it's a great place actually, full of conscious people.
Really? Hello.
A little sarcastic.
I can see those eyes. They didn't pass us here. Let's put it that way.
Okay, I noticed that when we're really high level, like I kind of want to tune into the undercurrent there.
Okay, that's good.
So we can make a lot of jokes about it in high tempo, but I almost notice I'm holding my breath.
Mm-hmm.
To like, there's a like. So when I'm tuning into you, Dawn, there's like a holding of my breath when I think about this topic, jokes aside. So what am I sensing here, if anything?
I don't know. Only I think you could. Are you sensing that in me?
Oh, like in the old version of you.
I don't know what I don't even understand the question. I'm sorry.
Interesting.
I don't know where you went, but I loved where you took us to.
Yeah.
So you said let's like slow it down a little bit, sweet.
Yeah, okay. I hear you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you for that. Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
When I've sat with your post, right?
Yes.
It's easy for people to look at what you've written and not see the humanity in you and the kind of almost I don't want to use the word desperation because that would imply that you're desperate, but like exhaustion.
Mm-hmm.
And so my question to you is how has that been?
That's actually why I think I post other posts about me. Right. That's why you see the other, I did go on a date last weekend and it was really nice. And so I posted about it. I said, that I had this wonderful date. And so I do try to post other things that show my humanity because, and I think actually some people do relate to my humanity because they see the frustration and the anger. And so many women feel this. I know that. They just,
Sure.
they don't want to speak to it. So, but yes, I definitely come off different than I think. Absolutely, I come off different, It's not my full persona, no.
Yeah, but when you write a post and you feel, I would almost say, when I hear your post, it's almost like there's always that kind of polarity. There's this desperation, like, why the fuck does it have to be that way? And then you show the other side, which is the almost, I'm going to point the finger at the contradiction in what you say and what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And what goes on inside of you when you're saying, okay, I'm gonna write this now?
Utter frustration, actually, because nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about it, and I know that people agree with me. I'm certain of it because I talk to other people, and I'm not doing it to. At the end of the day, what I would love to do is teach and just raise awareness. I'm not trying to make people angry. My approach may not, be settling and landing very well in people's systems, and people argue that you're not creating any change because you're just pissing people off. They're charged, you're re-traumatizing them, and nothing's going to sink in. And there's truth to that, and I do get that. But I'm also, I love to make jokes, and so it's almost, a lot of times I'm having fun.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
And you also see sometimes I post jokes into the responses because I like to, like, when you'll say, I don't need any man to tell me what to do or something, then I'll say, I think you should.
Right.
And I'll
Right. I'm getting a lot of that lately. So
And
I to keep it light. Yeah, go ahead.
and I always think there's going to be someone who doesn't get the joke and starts to attack me for the humor of the absurdity. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you're both trigger happy people. So, in its essence, what is the core frustrating thing that you encounter? Because I'm not hearing anything about men's groups. I'm hearing about men.
Yes. Okay. Yes. And I had a feeling that was going to happen. I think the frustration for me is, well, where do I start? That people, I think, and I'm talking a lot about conscious communities. Remember that, right? There really is a difference. I think it's really important to mention that, that we're pretending that all of these men are doing the work. And whenever a woman raises her voice or speaks to something, it's because she's wounded. It's gaslighting. It's wait, so I can't point out what seems really obvious to me. The men's work movement started in the 60s. Robert Bly. This isn't that we haven't been doing this for a long time. No, not many men are engaged in men's work. And they just point the finger right back at me and other women, and I find that immensely frustrating. It's really silencing.
Yeah. And how does that show up? Because I don't see it. I don't understand how. I think I'm not in a world where that happens. So can you give me an example of how that looks? Because I can't imagine how it plays out in real life.
Goodness. Well, let's say I get DMs from coaches all the time, offering their services to me on how to get a man, how to work with my trauma, because I obviously have it around men, or because I have this mindset, therefore I'm going to sabotage my relationship to men. And men certainly aren't attracted to that, which is true. They aren't really. Some men think it's sassy and they appreciate the humor. I get approached by coaches all the time.
So the presumption being that the way you're being is in conflict to what they think you actually want.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a bit arrogant.
Oh, the arrogance is really amazing. And there's one sector, and I'm just going to say, there seems to be a lot of men, and I can't figure this out, in their 30s who just come after me. Some come after me, but a lot of them just write really long comments. They put a lot of, and I appreciate the intent. They put a lot of energy into giving me advice. And it's usually men in their 30s. I don't and it becomes about them. It becomes about me bashing men. And there a lot of victimhood, male victimhood, which I don't think that's where we should be right now, is framing, men's experience.
So let's just take one step.
Keep me focused.
You go to Harvard Law School. You basically have to be a really smart individual to even get into the school. And then you've established yourself. Really? Could you be dumb and get into that school?
You can. I'll just I'll take the fifth.
Oh, okay. So, you could know somebody maybe. Okay, I don't know, but let me just put it this way: you would have, by other standards, you would have been successful and achieved a lot. And then you have individuals who are just getting in contact with basically call it the chemicals in their brain that they're just trying to figure out how they work in real life, and then they're telling you all the things you're doing wrong as a female.
And they're men. And they're 20 years younger than me, 25, some of them 25 years younger than me.
Wow.
It's really amazing. I keep telling my friend, I just can't imagine telling somebody who's maybe 70, 75, giving them advice. It feels, and maybe this is my ego, it feels disrespectful as fuck.
No, clearly.
Really
do you still want to have sex with those kids? Because there is got to be some degree of, hey, they're also attractive.
No, it's a huge turn off.
And I'll tell you why.
Well, why?
You wouldn't want something that expressed in its way like that can't take responsibility inside you.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, damn it, Bambos. Drop the mic.
Sounds like you know women, huh?
Oh, man. I guess I had to, but
I'm really curious because I have a story in my head about myself. So the more grounded and the more I own my space, the women that get interested in me get narrower. So the quality improves and the choice gets narrower, and then everything else kind of fades away. So with you, it feels like you're just attracting a lot of trouble.
I don't know what you're saying, but it sounds like a
good. This is just an observation in my own life, and then I'm thinking I don't attract women with those long messages.
That's really good. And I don't.
And maybe you're looking for that, by the way, because like you say, you want to help men develop and grow and teach. At least you use I wasn't sure if that was the context.
Well, I want to create discussion. I want to create discussion and awareness. And so I do mind when they comment, actually, but sometimes there's some wonderful comments, really, really insightful comments. Sometimes not, obviously.
I found you to be, if I looked at you through my time of enjoying your journey, I found you to almost be so authentic. It's felt really genuine. I didn't even necessarily feel you to be a provocateur. It was, and I don't know if you can relate with that. Do you feel like you're provoking? I've always sensed a sense of authenticity in what you've shared.
Thank you for mentioning that. I feel it's very authentic. Very authentic. I'm not sitting here. How can I rattle people's cages and stir the pot? Really, I'm not, actually. I do have an impetuous nature. I will say that. So I really have to pause before I post. But it definitely comes from my lived experience at that moment. They're all very present and real, right? It's not something chewing on and I've given it a lot of thought. It's usually like, hey, this happened yesterday. What do you guys think? Sort of thing. And it's taken a lot of soul searching. Can you see me?
Bambos was scrolling on your page and then we lost you.
Okay. But it takes a lot of I do take responsibility for my own inner work. I really do, and that's but like people think I am listening. I am listening actually to the comments.
Yeah.
I
I
really.
want to know, was there a time when you posted something and you feel like it got out of hand? And if so, what was it?
The one that you read, the meditation one. Is that that got political, which it wasn't about. It wasn't meant to be political, and it was meant to really talk about trauma and our trauma
So
response.
tell me, take me, because I'd love to hear your journey. So you go from having a feeling, I can't even remember do you remember what the statement was that you made there?
Yeah, it's the fact that we're so focused on meditation and self-regulation, and I can't remember the third one now. A result of the fact that men have been running the spiritual playbook. They run the show in the spiritual circles. They have for centuries, right?
Uh-huh.
And it became a political post. Wow. Everybody was all over. That's the one with 107.
I can really see why you would say that.
Yeah, I can see why you'd say that as well.
I mean, I was talking to a woman last night, and I was trying to explain to her the difference between masculine and feminine energy and how we embody them. And in general, it's very directed, it's very focused. I'm going to sit in a certain way, I'm going to be disciplined.
Yep.
And it's like it's dead.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you have Mother Nature, this full explosion of colors and life and water, rivers, like you can't even begin to imagine how everything like grows outward and expansive, and that's the feminine, this power, and then we have this like
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and they're trying to calm the nervous system, and it's you have to know how the nervous system works. And I got this amazing book, which I wish I could plug. It's Into the Wild, and she's talking about the fight, fleet, freeze.
The fight, flight.
Yeah, thank you. I'm nervous, and how it's different for men and women, and we need to be centered and grounded in response, because we shut down or we start fawning, and that came up because I was at the dog park and some guy was literally screaming at me, and I totally froze, and all I could say was "fuck you." That was what that was my brilliant response, and so it really got me thinking, like, I needed to learn how to be centered and grounded in that moment and speak up and fight up, not shut down and go meditate.
Oh yeah, that you can solve it by shutting your emotions down and getting connected to the moment, as opposed to you could also solve it by telling someone to go screw themselves.
Right. I wish I hadn't said that.
Why is that?
I really
it was reactive.
It was
Oh,
so
okay.
reactive. It really was, not to be too dramatic, a trauma response. I mean, I felt my body, I couldn't move. I actually froze. I literally froze.
So here's the funny thing, though. If to ground yourself, that probably would be a masculine quality. But from that groundedness to allow the full throttle of the emotion, whatever you're feeling out, that would be like the full feminine. I'm just playing it out right now. I'm not even sure if what I'm saying is right, by the way.
Well, I think there isn't really a paradigm for it, except for this book is amazing. I really do actually recommend it. I think, so much of even what we're studying now, everyone's talking about the nervous system and somatic healing techniques and modalities, but it's still men are the ones writing the scripts, pretty much.
So I want to go. I'd love to steer us back in the men's group thing a bit.
Yes. Okay.
There is some aspect of men's groups that I've seen. A trigger would be a strong word. I would say suspicion would be a better word. I've been suspicious of. And what I feel like is that I've often seen, and this isn't all of them, but I've often seen that there's sort of a belief system that's formed in the group of good and bad and the way things should be. And I'm very much the proponent that, hey, any belief system is just another thing you need to figure out how to work through.
Right.
And some of the things I've seen in my projection is things like, oh, if we can't feel, we need to like start a sentence with, this is, I feel. And then so I in some way I start to feel like the people start to learn tools, but the tools like are just things hiding the thing that they're not saying. So if we say I,
Can you
and
give
that's just sorry.
Can you give an example?
Example. I don't think that you're a genuine person.
Okay.
Start there. Dawn, I feel that in some ways when you speak, you're not necessarily owning all of the stuff that's going on inside of you when you talk.
Okay.
So now I had a thought which had judgment in it, but instead of me letting that judgment come, I translate it into the I feel sentence, which is what I learned in the group.
Right. Right.
Not showing himself.
Not showing myself at all. And then I think that that's really me being authentic because I'm telling you how I feel, where actually it's judgment in disguise.
Oh, but absolutely. Oh, totally. Sorry. Yeah, now I get what you're saying. You see it all the time.
Yeah.
You see it all this flowery language. When what you and once you know all the flowery language, you can see what they're saying. It's hilarious. I get so much of that. So much.
Yeah, and that's what I figured, because when I hear your post, what I'm hearing is the exact thing I just described to you. Is that the use of a tool which we now believe is more authentic than what we were doing before, when in fact it's just another way of disguising the thing we're not talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sorry if I'm making long sentences.
That's very insightful. That's really
I don't know if it's insightful. It's what I'm getting from your post. This is what you're posting out and what I'm seeing in your post.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That's good. Yeah. I don't really have I don't have a reflection on that, because I've never heard that. Interesting.
I guess what I translate your contradictions that you point at, that's the contradiction that I'm always sensing in myself. I'm seeing, and I also, let's not discount that the men's group is incredibly important work, and it helps people through very difficult times in their lives.
Absolutely.
We can't dismiss that or pretend like that isn't relevant. I think what we're honing in on is where it kind of turns into its own belief system, or almost what I often like to say is identification. And then people get in some idea that I'm better because I am in a men's group and this is how we do things.
Oh, absolutely. It's very ego driven and it's very performance based.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Could you go into that, by the way? Because when you say performance based, then I'd love to hear what your thoughts are with that.
Well, I feel that first of all, I feel it's really important that men's work is sustainable. I think a lot of men go in and do one workshop and they feel like, they've gone really deep because they're in the shallow end of but they're still in the shallow end of the pool, just because it was so deep compared to what their baseline is. And then they give up, which is really unfortunate, because there is so much in men's work. Yeah. But men are conditioned to be so performance based that they're doing it just so they can get that orgasm, instead of really feeling it and really engaging with it. And or they're doing it to get laid. They're doing men's work to get laid. And I posted about that, of course, right? Are men just going to men's work to get laid? And some really well-known teachers were like, you bet your ass. Yeah, actually she's right. They are. And
yeah,
is that
we've
wrong?
seen it. We've seen it. We've talked about it on the show. Is that what Bombos has a really visceral story, but I've got also stories, but the one that you had when you were at creating a very genuine interaction. You went to the training where you called the person out.
I was actually in Bali, and but this wasn't a men's group, but there was a facilitator that was holding the space, and I, as a man, would step back and like, hey, there's something happening here. Like, there's a lot of vulnerability going, and I see that this facility is touching women in certain ways, very subtle. There's an energy happening. And I didn't feel comfortable. Like, I was like, wow, these are these moments of where this can become a hashtag me too, and I'm going to be another fucking guy that doesn't say anything.
Oh, right.
So I spoke to him,
Wow.
and we were sat in we actually were outside in a cafe. We talked about it. After like an hour, he finally said, "Yeah, this is just me. I'm just being playful." And I'm like, "Yeah, but everyone here is paying to be part of this workshop. We're your clients, so at
Mhm.
least if this is you just playing, make that part of the context." Because I spoke to a few of the women, and everyone loves you, and there's this
Yeah.
that no one wants to confront you. So in the end, I it kept happening to the point where I'm like, am I crazy? Why is no one talking? We're in a
Right.
conscious
Right.
community
Right.
with
Oh,
conscious and grounded men, and no one is saying anything. So I thought, ah. So
yes. Thank you for
I
yeah.
spoke to a few of the women, and apparently, yeah, I feel it, and I just can't put my finger on it. But now that you're saying it, and then I didn't know to what degree I was putting things into the women's minds. But then if I have 5 women who are all 5 sharing consistently, so in the end, I and a couple of women, we went to talk to him. He kind of collapsed into this
Fetal.
fetal position of I'm a wounded man. I've like he went straight into the pain, but not owning anything.
Right. I see that so much. Go ahead.
And I saw all the women around me melting, and I was like, "You don't get to do this!"
Right.
Like,
Right.
fuck you, man.
Wow,
So,
that's fascinating. Yeah.
so
For
that
me.
that day, the whole retreat center shook. I got kicked out,
Really?
Yeah, of course. You got
and
to get rid of the adjutant.
and and and,
Fascinating.
and what happened was, I spoke to a few of the men who were co-facilitating the thing, which I got from them. We saw that you were on top of it. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Imagine if we all came as a
Oh,
community and we spoke to this individual
Held them
right.
accountable.
and held him accountable with love.
With love, with
With,
understanding, and with
bec-
yeah,
it's
right.
just heightening awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I I told the individuals that I feel really angry, and in no way do I find you guys not standing by my side acceptable. And for this reason, I can't have you in my life.
Hmm.
Wow, powerful
And
story.
Yeah.
and the women also, they kind of changed their story, and I was like, wow, this is what happens in community. Like,
Mhm.
a behavior is allowed to exist, and even the women, oh, but it was okay.
Let's find harmony back again. Let's
Oh,
get back.
oh, oh,
Let's get back to
Yeah.
harmony, because harmony feels so much better. We don't like this disharmony, even if it's why Harvey Weinstein can continue on for many years.
Who's that?
He's this person in the U.S. who did some terrible things in Hollywood.
I think.
Producer. Yeah.
Thank you for speaking to that. There's so much to unpack in that story. Wow. Like I think that it is, and that is another thing that does drive me crazy is men not. Where are the men that are holding the other men accountable? Where the fuck are they?
There's one here. He held me accountable 2 days ago on the show for 20 minutes. We argued.
Yeah, and 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 that's but what you did was men's work. It's
Yeah, I
men's
know. I know.
It's
It
about
is men's
holding
work, but
other men accountable
yeah,
without attack.
yeah,
That is
but it
part of
but
men's
it
work.
doesn't fulfill societal. So people watching that show, even from 2 days ago, will be judging either one of us because they don't see that there's love in the actual holding another person accountable to things they might not be aware of in themselves.
He was
Yes,
holding me accountable
I
for
hear you.
something.
I hear
Eh,
you. I
But
hear. Yeah.
but so it strangely or paradoxically, it takes a higher level of consciousness to
Mhm.
hold that space, knowing,
Yes.
like Bambos, I can guarantee you, Bambos was seen as horrible there. He was the only one taking responsibility, and yet he was the one that was the problem.
Right. 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 I've been in the situations like that. You probably doesn't surprise you, but
Yeah, exactly. Really?
um, yeah, be harmonious, be loving, don't be divisive. There's so much that they come back with because
Yeah.
because they're uncomfortable with it. You know, it's their discomfort, really, at the end of the day, I believe. Interesting.
You oh, sorry, go ahead.
So I've been to a couple of men's groups in my life. There was one which I don't feel I dealt with it in a good way. I did end up being responsible for tearing the whole men's group apart.
Okay.
I'm both through in the men's group.
And I would do it differently if I go back. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to say that I was right, but and I don't want to deny that what I was experiencing was off.
Nice.
Right.
So
Right.
what I saw were coming together, and after this third meeting, I just felt like, fuck, no one is willing to actually speak up. Like, hey, Dave, like, fucking, this is what I see in you, like, fucking own it,
Right.
kind
Right.
of thing. And,
Right.
you know, that energy is very penetrative. And if people have trauma,
Yeah.
it can be very.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So I would even say if a space holder should have some degree or an ability to hold even that, and that wasn't there.
And that's so important, and thank goodness, and I get a lot of this, that all of my ranting is just is shaming, right? And that when you call somebody out, that's shaming. And where do you draw the line between calling somebody out and shaming them, right? Because it often, I agree, it doesn't land when somebody feels shamed.
I'd love to use just
Different language.
the vernacular. As soon as the term calling someone out is used, all of a sudden, everything you do from that moment forward is fucked.
Mhm.
So the only thing you could say is I'm pointing out a behavior. How another person experiences it
Exactly.
is the issue. And they get to decide if they're being attacked. They get to decide if you're pointing something out as a gratitude, like that. So it's two different sides of it. It's like I get to say whatever I say to you, and I might not say it elegantly, but the other person gets to decide to what degree they receive it or they defend, and then all of a sudden it's a different dynamic.
It's a different dynamic. And I, I'm some of the coaches that respond to me, and I learned this, and I actually appreciate it, is you can ask, right? Do you mind some dark feedback? Do you mind some feedback that may not be pleasant?
Yeah.
Right? Ask them. Most people probably say, someone asked me that on one of my posts, and I said, hell no. And I was kidding, of course, right? And then
The last time someone asked Andy if he wanted feedback, he said, fuck you and your judgments.
Yeah.
Really? Oh my God, that's hilarious.
I wrote a whole chapter on it in the book. It's like, and when the book came out, by the way, the book won an award. So congratulations to me. It won in the large publisher category of personal development. It won the Nautilus Award yesterday. So
wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
But there was one chapter that I was like, this actually happened, and I'm going to write about it. And it was fuck you and your fucking judgment. And the whole chapter, thank you, Yuka, our friend, and is she's congratulating me. Thank you for the congratulations. The thing that I was touching on was kind of pointing back at what I said earlier, is that a lot of times when people give feedback, they actually are not conscious of the judgments, and they've taken no responsibility for that. So I've, in my life, said, listen, I set really hard boundaries. If you're not owning your shit, then why would I want to listen at all? Because now I have to discern your judgment from what you're helping me to see.
Right.
Which are two different things.
Which are two very different things.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
I'll admit that. I'm guilty of that. Yeah.
You had a post that got a hell of a lot of comments, and that was on how is it that men get fawned upon when they're doing their men's work and the women.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. Wow.
Did you get that?
Can you define fond? It's a new word for me.
Fawn. It's a trauma response that's typically women fall into the fawning response. It's people pleasing.
Oh, well, let me relate it if I can for a moment, Bambos. When you said that you called out this trainer in Bali, The trainer went into a fawn or to a fetal position, and the women went, "Oh,
Yeah.
he's suffering." That's fawning. They're like, "Oh, we have to be there to support him. He's having a hard time." That's what I interpreted. I don't know if it's the same for you, Dawn, but that's how I would interpret it.
Yes. Well, yes. Some. Yes.
What makes you hesitate? What will help me understand the distinction you might add to it?
Fawning necessarily. I don't see it. I see that more as like rescuer behavior.
Oh, okay.
Because he fell into victimhood, and so all the women want to rescue him and take care of him. Fawning like isn't when you're caretaking necessarily, because that seems more caretaking.
You're right. Yeah.
When it's needless people pleasing to appease the situation so that nothing bad happens. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got it. Fawning, I'd associate more with sexuality, even
and
to be honest with you.
self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because I would see if I'm in a men's group and I'm 20 pounds overweight, but all of a sudden I'm acting in a way that's attractive to the other woman, then they would fawn over me because, hey, I'm more, I remind them of their dad that they couldn't make peace with.
Right. Okay. I see what you're saying. So and the community is ripe with it. You know, men doing the work are heroes.
Yeah.
Heroes.
We said something in the beginning. Men go to men's group to get laid. I would say that's a pretty accurate description. Like men's groups in general are about helping men drop into their balls. But the intention with what they go into and what can actually evolve and come out of are two different things. And sometimes they might, and I can speak to myself, I've walked out of a space where I carried both. Oh, I'm a fucking vicious, want to fuck everything that moves, and I'm also this loving, caring, grounded man. And I wanted to get rid of this, and I just couldn't.
Which you should.
Yeah, I know. We even did a show
Sorry.
like a year ago, which was lust. Like,
yeah,
right.
Because I wanted to get rid of my lust, and the way I sat with it was, I'm walking down the street, and my normal pattern is if I see a beautiful woman, I would talk to her, or it's too lustful, I'm going to run away. And there was a sweet spot of just staying present and being a witness, so not going and not running. And then I started crying.
Wow.
And then I came here, and Andy said, "Oh, that sounds like love."
Right.
and I was like, "Wow, yeah, that's love, yeah."
Yeah. Wow, you've got some good stories.
Yeah.
We could do a whole show on this.
Bambos, we had one, if I may, just to share. Can I share a story of you, Bambos? Good. It's a really bad one. No, it wasn't that. So Bambos decided to be celibate for a period.
Okay.
A year. 2019, after my relationship ended.
And it was a really beautiful act. And then a year later, he comes to me like, "Andy, I can't get women off him. Every woman I see, I feel charged by. I don't know what to do. And I'm looking like, are you crazy? What are you like, Andy, I need to master this. I'm like, my friend, there are sexual urges that also exist. Like, you can embrace the fact that is, and we had a big chuckle on the back end.
It was really driving me crazy. Like to the point where women were not safe with me. Like that's how I felt.
That's how you felt, because you were more open to what's inside of you, probably, right? Too. Yeah, and some of the men's groups, and you may know more about this than I do. Yeah, they're not exploring the primal urges of men, and that's so important.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really important to know how to navigate. I believe, because I see men feeling guilty for it, just like you said.
Yeah, I always tell my wife, like, I want to fuck everything. Like, babe, I'm not going to pretend with you I'm not a man. I want to fuck everything that moves, and it's okay. Like I don't, like, please don't castrate me. Like, and we'll talk about it. I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to pretend. Like, just like, don't take my humanity away from me so that you feel less like, and we have a good laugh and it's free and there's no fear anymore because it's not like anything's lurking in the background.
Exactly.
Well, actually, now that Andy's losing a lot of weight, we might have to reconsider.
Consider what?
I touched him today.
I touched me as well.
You
I
did?
like the way I feel. Yeah, I lost
He's
15
lost so
pounds.
much weight.
I'm
15 pounds?
Yeah, since January, I've been really working at like just maintaining a better
Congrats.
Better diet, walking a lot.
You often talk about your sex life quite openly.
Yes.
Ooh,
In
tell
fact,
us.
in fact, I believe what?
That's purposeful as hell. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I think so. And I believe you actually had sex recently, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
did after 3 years. Can you
Andy,
believe it?
like, are you gonna ask a clear question?
No, I just love that we can lead up to anything. Like, I know something about you that seems so arbitrary that I shouldn't know, you know? But,
right. But everybody knows.
yeah.
Can I ask, when you share a sexual experience online, what is the intention?
What is the intention?
Yeah.
The intention is to release the shame around sexuality. Yeah. It's really that simple. Like, I don't know.
Like, are you saying that as you're writing, you're releasing your own shame because you're taking?
No, I think I'm trying to model for people to talk about sexuality in an open and honest way. That's my intent. Yeah, and it is very purposeful. That is not impetuous when I do, especially around the sex.
So, what was a big discovery that you, as a woman, that you've had from your last sexual experience, if any, that you felt compelled to write about it?
Well, it was. I was, of course, trying to be, playful and whatnot. I had been celibate for 3 years, and I wrote about that. I called myself the celibate slut, and I would write as my pen name was the celibate slut. So I was no longer the celibate slut, and it was just more of a fun announcement. You're not going to believe this,
Yeah.
It was just fun, but yeah.
I just would like to share to that. When I read your post, I felt in your post, I find more celebration than provocation. So I see that, and I think anyone that doesn't see that doesn't want to really see you.
There are a lot of people who don't want to really see me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if they don't really want to see you, then they can stay in their own identity, which is that I'm being attacked by this individual who doesn't want to see me.
Well said. Yeah.
So and that's why I've had a lot of admiration for your post, because in actuality, what you're saying in my world, in my wording, I'm allowing myself not to be seen, and it's okay.
Right. Exactly.
And everything that you're posting, which is what I found so beautiful. And I also love, you'll talk about hypocrisy. For me, you've also spoken a lot about the hypocrisy of being a middle-aged man versus being a middle-aged woman.
Oh goodness, yes.
Oh, I'm curious.
Yeah, please.
That was quite a reaction that you gave.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even. I get overwhelmed and then I don't know where to start. Let's see. Well, the hypocrisy. Boy. Well, first of all, one thing, we don't talk about generational differences. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. In conscious circles and men's work, I think it's really important to acknowledge that. Just as a side note, you both are looking at me like this.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
I don't get that at all.
Okay, I don't know where to start with that question. Ask
Go.
I was just gonna say, give her a sentence, then, and let.
Oh yeah. So I would say, when I hear you talk, it's like, if I were a man, I wouldn't need to deal with blah blah blah.
Okay. Like, if I were a man, I wouldn't have to deal with the stereotype of being bitter and desperate. And that's a big one, believe it or not. It's affected me more than I didn't. I'm 51, and I think I was in denial, and it's really hit me this year, especially online dating, because nobody will touch me that's my age. No one will touch me. They are going after the young. They really are. This is not some weird thing that I'm making up. And when I do talk to people my age, I've become friends with a few of them, and we explore this together. I have found men because I think I'm really open and I, believe it or not, am very willing to listen and very compassionate. Men do tell me their stories. So this is not coming from left field, right? Um, I'm just really I'm so shocked at the stereotypes of 51-year-old women and where we are, and then I feel all this pressure from the conscious community to be really positive about it, and age doesn't matter, and all, without recognizing I live in a society where really matters. So again, I'm all over the place because
I know what
I'm really overwhelmed by it still at this point.
No, I can see that. And I think what I took away from it was that I think what I heard you, this was maybe a month ago, your big thing on the post was, why is it that all the men my age are going for women that are half their age?
Right. And that's my experience, and especially in Bali, actually.
Yeah.
Especially in Bali. And that's not to say there are exceptions, and that's just my experience. And
No, but we're not sitting on the judgment side of things. Actually,
yeah,
I think it's, Ronnie once said to me, Andy, what would you do if I died? And I said, babe, I'd probably lose like 30 pounds and try to find a woman half my age,
He probably, I probably have to take him to ecstatic dance.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, there was the kind of the humor and the stereotype and this sort of feeling of like, there's this, I'll celebrate the humanity and also see the absurdity of it. And I think what happens a lot of the times is people don't see through themselves. Like they actually are reacting to the fact that I'm getting old, I'm going to die, and I want to feel like I'm still alive.
Yeah.
Alive. And when I point that out, it sounds so almost childish, right? Because it's, we all kind of know that that's a reality to some degree. I'm really asking out of curiosity. A lot of times I am generally asking, like, let's really dig deep here and look what's happening in the male psyche, that they want to date someone who's 25 years younger. Let's really explore it and talk about it. And I get so much pushback as if I'm blaming men. I'm like, no, I want to talk about it and explore it with men so that I understand, because right now,
but let's be honest, you do have judgment because because your comments will also allude to the fact, like, how do you hold a conversation with a 13-year-old and find it interesting when all they're talking about is whatever toy they want to buy? Like how does, after 50 years old, how do you have a conversation with someone who's never had a job in their life and think, wow, this is going to be a great, a future to base whatever on? Yeah.
Right. I'm not saying there's no judgment. No, of course not. No, I'm not one of those people that says you can't.
So just to go back to one subject, and just you go 3 years being celibate. Is that a decision, or is that sort of because I haven't got the man that I really want to have that experience with?
I think it was a decision for both, but I think for the first 2 years, it was a conscious decision. I needed to work on myself. I was bringing in some real characters,
douchebags,
real losers,
some real losers.
Oh,
and
wow.
and I knew that was me. I knew I had some serious work to do. So I really went and did some serious work, actually.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So now, there's, now that I'm looking, and I kind of, maybe it must have been 6 months ago, I was like, all right, let's do this online dating thing. I'm also new. I've never dated in my entire life. I just had found a lover or a partner, and it worked naturally and organically, and it flowed. And this whole context of like, it's just wild.
And how has that been? Because did the individual that you connected with, was that through an online date, or was that other?
Yeah. He was. We actually we just spoke yesterday. He ghosted me. He just disappeared. And he actually sat and listened to me for about 40 minutes about how I felt when he did that. And at the end, he said, you know what, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry about that. And he asked me what language he could use if he doesn't want to talk to a woman. And I gave him scripts and tools, and fucking shocking. I couldn't, afterwards, of course I had to post it. And I'm like, I just counseled the guy that ghosted me from online dating. I mean, it was crazy. It was like magic. It was crazy.
I mean, it's really beautiful though, because as I hear you speak, it's like you're supporting the individual to see the area that they might not be capable in order to, in some weird way, there is no judgment in you as you're helping them, because clearly you can't help someone if you're judging them. You're supporting someone who doesn't know, which is it's a beautiful energy.
I don't know where you get the patience.
I don't know either. That's what I
Like,
don't know.
I'm guilty of ghosting women in my past. If I see that they have an idea of their version of love is, and I'm not fitting into, they don't like, oh, the way you're behaving is not loving, but actually I'm loving in my own way. And then I'm put in a position like, do I defend myself now? Do I get into conversation? Do I have the patience? Like, we haven't even started dating and this is coming up. Like, this is pretty much this is like a little seed, and in the future that's what I'm good at getting myself into. So in a way, it's like, take a deep breath in, and I don't want to deal with this.
Right.
And I'm doing that out of self-care, but also time, like time.
Well, ghosting's a whole different topic, but
Well, I'll say something like, this doesn't work for me. I see there's a strong belief here,
okay.
and I don't find myself having the space to engage you from how it's coming at me.
Exactly.
And then they'll bring the belief again. You see, and I'm like, point taken.
Right.
Yeah, I don't, sorry to defend Bambos here. I don't see you ghosting. I
Yeah.
see you saying things which the other doesn't want to hear, which
very
they blame you for. So I don't see you ever ghosting people. I see you saying things that they don't like. And then he'll ask me, how do I phrase it differently? And I say, oh, if you say it like this, you don't have as much of a headache afterwards. And he's like, oh, shit, why didn't you tell me that before?
And then I write it down.
Right. I hope he was writing it down yesterday. I really do. It was actually, yeah, it was entertaining. So.
And I do want to say something, which is coming up for me. I am one of those men who date younger women.
Okay.
And it's not because I'm just chasing younger women. When I've been engaging women within my vicinity, what I've discovered is there's been so much wounding.
Yes.
And and I'm open, I'm loving, I'm here, and then all of a sudden I'm against this wall. I'm like, fuck. Like,
that's a very nice way of saying bitter. Yes.
And to what degree again? Like, it feels again like I'm up against the 50 relationships that didn't work out, and I don't feel the fucking life force. And then I meet someone who is in their 30s, and or even in their 20s, and they're fucking vibrant and energetic, and I'm like, ah. but then of course,
right.
But then of course it's the flip side, like, oh shit,
right.
I'm the daddy here. So where's that sweet spot? Where's that sweet spot where she's not fucking young and you're like, oh shit, and she's not completely shut down that it becomes hell to be with.
Right.
And so I'm really sensitive to those different flavors.
You've articulated this incredibly well, Bambos,
Really?
in a way that I'm like, I have to reflect deeply on what you've just said.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Very interesting. Yeah. And I think, wow, that's powerful. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, go. I had a question to you, but I'd love it if you already had a response.
I mean, I've got several responses, but how come you can't? And this is me being triggered, right? Something like that. Like, so what happens to all these women who have experienced trauma at usually the hands of men in relationship? Then they can't find a partner. And I have a lot of activist energy in me. So that goes, that's unfair, right? But then I hear your story and I relate. So it's really a mind fuck. But, maybe having compassion for these women and understanding and knowing that there's so much juicy wisdom underneath all of that, right? And how can we together kind of disarm this, right? But then that's a lot of work and energy. And why not just go out with a 30-year-old who's like, yeah, let's party. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I've
Yeah.
also sussed out that some of the women that are best to date are women with children.
I've heard that before.
Like I've had some of the best conversations with online dating with women who have children. I'm like, wow, you're so much loving you. Like
Hmm.
they've had a child, they've got rid of the idiot.
Right. Right.
So that took strength,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and especially some of the stories. And to the degree that the woman doesn't blame the
Mhm.
partner, tells me that they're able to take responsibility.
Yeah.
And some
Totally.
of these women are like, they have a business, they have a child, the
Yeah.
child stays with the parents some of the times, and there's this depth and at the
Yeah.
same time they're like, oh, I'm gonna go do pole dancing now,
Right.
because
Right.
so that for me is really attractive. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
and because they have a child, they cannot afford to invite an asshole into their life. So they're even
Yeah.
extra careful. Like
Yeah.
their bullshit detector is like Jean.
Right.
Don't absolutely without being projecting all the time. Right.
Yeah.
Knowing when it's a projection in story and um. So what would you do? Did you, Andy? Did you want to say something?
No, I kind of was asking you a question which you already answered. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So how would you recommend a woman who has trauma in her background present and for men without seeming like they're armored? Like what does that look like to you? Or dare I say bitter?
Like I'm as I'm letting the words land in me, it's not a logical thing. It's not something that it's a black and white thing.
Mhm,
Like I just took a deep breath in and I just felt an expansive feeling.
mhm,
And like just standing with arms
Mm.
open and being willing. Like I always tell my female friends who are looking for men, a woman that's standing in her power and has fully owned herself and can look men in the eyes and doesn't have to even say anything is really scary for a lot of men. Like that kind of woman, a wounded man will not approach so easily because she will cut their head off.
mhm. Yes. Yeah.
And it's what I said earlier. Like the more grounded I'm becoming, my choice gets narrower,
I love that. I love that. Yeah.
and there needs to be more patience,
Hmm.
and also trying feeling into where do these men or women hang out, um, in the most odd places actually. And sometimes as I've been evolving myself, I'm seeing that wow, there's a type of woman that I've always been attracted to, and that's not working out for me.
Hmm.
And then I looked somewhere else. I'm like, oh wow, this is a complete different specimen.
Right. 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 That's where I am right now. Yeah. Exactly.
So sometimes it is not. I think it's also we look in the wrong places because we're attracted to that man or that woman, and then all of a sudden there's another existence. Like, oh wow, that person. Like that's not normally what I'm attracted to, and yet there's something there that I haven't allowed myself to feel.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm definitely right there. I'm really exploring.
There's something you asked a question earlier, what you just responded to,
Hmm.
and I had like this like an explosion in my brain
I saw that.
We love
because I'm
explosions.
like I sometimes have to shake my head a few times, like Jesus, what do I do with this stuff? Because in a way, I see confusion in the question that if I try to answer it, I'm going to be more confused. And the not and that I say what it is. I'm owning my shit. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
Is that in a way I see every single individual the same. If I'm going to date them, if I sit next to them every single day, if it's my wife or it's a friend or a business partner, I don't really distinguish. I have zero like things compartmentalized, and is the individual willing to look inward when it's hard?
Yes. Number one.
Hmm.
Number one.
So
Yes.
so and that's it. like, so when we say, you said bitter woman, like I think that creates confusion, because once you say bitter woman, then we project onto this label, and then it's easy to discount it. And what I would say is that
Yeah. Yeah.
that individual, if at any moment they can reflect on what's hardest to admit or see or acknowledge, and maybe not in that moment, because if you're triggered, you need maybe a little space. So I don't want to say that's an aggressive act to say now you have to do it because it's important for me. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, are you willing to allow that to occur? Because if we can do that, we can work through anything.
Say that again.
Mm.
So I'll give you an example. Ronnie and I, my wife, when we started to date, 15 years ago, it was like the rule is we can park a discussion, but we're going to have it. We
Right.
can park it, but we're going to have it always.
Mhm.
And there was a day like, and I was a bit of a dick. So first I'm going to own that. Okay. But
So no hate messages
there's just
after
no
this.
hate messages.
Right.
I'm not all proud of this story, but it had a.
It was 15 years ago,
It was
guys.
15
Come on.
years ago.
Right.
So I'm on the moped. We have a Friday date night. I pick her up and I'm driving her home, and I see that she's charged. She's charged. She's blaming, and she's a little victim, and she's a little that. And I haven't seen her in the week, and I know there's a decompression time, but there's also this thing going on in her where, as I'm asking her questions, like how not to solve, but to hear more of what's going on, she's not allowing it, not allowing it, not allowing it. So basically, it was like, babe, what's really going on here? Or how is it going? And what was it really? Or how, whatever the things were. And
Right.
and I could see it was going to be a weekend where I'm going to need to deal with all of this trauma, and I'm not going to enjoy that weekend. So I said, listen, I know you just came an hour to get here, but I think it's better that you go home right now because you'll be better off alone on this one. So then I turn the moped around and we go, and then she starts to cry.
Right. Right.
And then I park the fucking moped and we hold each other for the hour
Right.
and we just connect.
Uh-huh.
And then it was just a beautiful weekend.
Oh.
And
That's really touches my heart. Yeah.
but I don't know. Well, I mean, one could say what a dick you are to turn around, right? But my point was that I didn't want her to fall in the loop where then I'm the one who has to listen to it without her acknowledging there's more going on here. And I think it evolved in time. It was a long time ago in my own development, but the whole thing is that I have, and you would say the bitter woman, we go back to that one because that's a good stereotype to take. How much is the individual that has trauma allowing themselves to connect with that in vulnerability with you?
Right. Right. Right.
With you or whoever the partner is. And for me, that's the journey that you take together. And then you're not talking about, is it the bitter woman or the this, that, or the other thing. And I just find that to be a cleaner way of looking at life.
Yes.
I just love you right now.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And I yeah, thank you for that. I'm going to take that advice. Actually, I think that if I do present maybe with more vulnerability, then yeah.
I think this podcast we should put a charge on it when people watch it, because now there's like a workshop in
self-help.
Right.
Like we've been talking about men a lot, and there is I do want to come back to what you said about this wounded women. I know quite a few conscious women in my life who are dear friends of mine. I love them, and then I see that they're very clear. They're not going to attract the weird man anymore. Like, and then they meet a guy, and the guy, I'm already tuning into like, oh fuck, here we go again. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to call this individual Samantha. Samantha, I feel really confused, my love, because up until now you've been telling me what you're desiring, and when I look at this guy, I'm telling you right now, like, it's completely contradicting what you want to invite into your life. So what am I missing here? And she's like, I really need to have sex. Oh, and I'm like, okay, great. If that's the intention, great.
Right.
So she goes into it. 2 weeks later, she starts pulling back again. She's had her sex. And then she starts blaming the guy because she's taking away the sex, and so he's like, does that mean I can have sex with other women? And then she's calling.
Right,
So
right.
so it becomes a bit of a power game.
Mm-hmm.
And then she calls me and starts, why are men always like this? And I'm like, no, you don't get to do this now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what was the foundation of going into it?
Mm-hmm.
And in my body, found like intention is so key into anything. Like, you can never go back now and blame that guy, because that's what he wanted to begin with. That's what you guys came together for.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you had held back, filled into it, and just being your feminine, and just see to what degree you want this man to be inside you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if he gets you pregnant, is this the father of your child? Like, fuck no.
Right. And
So
that's a good point. That's a really good point, actually.
so I see. I don't want to say it's. I don't want to take away from the title of the show, but I think, to answer your question, which Andy said we don't really answer, is we will keep attracting bullshit as long as we're not clear with what we want and don't. And if we come
Amen.
from scarcity,
Yes.
In scarcity, yeah.
then we're just going to fuck everything that moves.
Yes. Amen.
In the words of Andy.
Yeah.
Now, how do you not operate from scarcity when they're how would you recommend somebody in my situation where there aren't that many men my age in the conscious communities? That has been my experience. How do you not operate from some scarcity?
You know, what's funny is that in one of your posts, you said, I'm over men in the consciousness communities. I'm looking for men, in the, like, I don't give a shit about. Like, the humor is, my wife has no interest in anything I do when it comes to...
I was wondering about that.
Zero. She hasn't read a book. She hasn't gone to a course. If I've asked her to go to a course, she's like, why are you imposing your boring weekend on me? Like she has zero interest in the kind of...
And yet they have one of the best relationships in the world. Like, I love them both.
Oh.
Like, if I tell you, just witnessing him and Ronnie together, like, it's also very consistent. It's a
Nice.
beautiful dance, and it's like in the hallway in the building, they'll be holding each other, oh honey, and kissing, and like,
Right.
it's one of the couples during COVID that got even stronger.
Wow. Good for you,
Yeah.
Andy.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, and I feel that way. I guess the thing I wanted to sort of move to was this the idea. I had a lot of thoughts come up, and then you pushed me to a feeling, so all the thoughts go away, of course. But
Right.
I thought about Ronnie downstairs waiting for me.
Where she was saying, actually, how do you not have scarcity? Yeah. Or how do you get out of that mindset? And
I'd like to give you a very simple answer, and it comes from Jessica, who says, "Stop looking for a relationship or longing for a relationship."
Stop.
Bitch.
But why should women deny themselves that wonderful longing of?
No, I just wanted to celebrate the answer because it was almost like almost a harsh answer that had a lot of truth in it.
It's like, in my life, it's a choice of, do I want to attract bullshit? Because if I and I'm a bit extreme that I want to fully own it.
Yeah.
It's not bullshit. It's like, am I willing to say yes to someone, and being really clear with myself that if I say yes to them, I already know the behaviors that I'm gonna have to be dealing with. And if I can be with it, then yeah, go for it. Like, sometimes the more I also see, the more grounded, and I keep using that word. Is there a better word?
I know.
The more in my balls I am, the more I can love the other.
Yeah.
But again, is that a full yes for me? Or is solitude intertwined with possibly feeling lonely, sometimes feeling that longing, and then back to solitude, and like, no, I'm okay with where I am? Like, there's a constant dance.
I'd love to touch on this because I do feel that there's a paradox here that is also, it's like, a lot of times in life, when you want the thing, you only get the thing when you let go of the fact that you want it.
And there is some truth in that.
And you can't manipulate it.
And you can't manipulate it. So and I guess it goes a little bit back to what Jessica wrote but it takes it to maybe a little bit different tract, is that I've found that if I've got a very healthy relationship with me, then the codependent stuff starts to disappear.
But wait a minute, it's not codependent. I don't think it's clingy. I'm a big proponent of I need a man. You bet your ass I need a man. I'm a woman. I'm a grown woman. I have connection is really important to me, and so intimacy, and I'm not ashamed of that. And so
I don't think you were saying that she's
no,
codependent,
of
right?
course I wasn't saying that.
Oh,
Nor does she use the word I use it, which is fine. We use the word a bit differently.
I'm getting there. I think
Yeah,
it
please.
gets, I think it get. I was going somewhere, but I was also triggered. I think it gets intertwined. They get confused. They get intertwined, right? So
let me just to share with codependency how I see it is I need you to give me something that I can't give myself.
Right.
And when I say that thing I can't give myself, there are things that we long for, and that in the connection with another, that's how we get it. But what I also see is that I need things that I like. I can look at all of my early relationships. I give you a prime example. I went for weak women that could not survive in my idea. And I thought that I could take care of them and I could nurture them and
they would never leave
heal them.
Exactly.
And then what would happen? No, that wasn't it. Oh, I didn't feel that way. I don't think, but I'll tell you what I felt when I started to then try to help them and they wouldn't receive the help or they wouldn't change. And then other men would sense that softness and maybe the insecurity of that woman, then feed off it. I would become aggressively sort of protective because all of a sudden it's like, I'm trying to give you the thing and you're not receiving it. And I see other men sort of feeling off the same thing that made me attracted to you. I see the other men getting attracted to you for that same reason, the damsel in distress thing.
Totally.
And then I'd become resentful of them for the same reason that I fell in love with them.
Good observation.
I think we need to go to men's group.
Yeah,
Do you know what?
That's deep. Yeah.
But don't you see that? I mean, that's the pattern a lot of men have. And
yeah.
And I guess I was going there because we had a topic that I wanted to use that as an example for, but I can't even.
Versus need.
Yeah, and so what I saw was that I needed to fix another person because I wasn't full in myself, and that's where I'm pointing at. The codependency was I was looking for people I could fix because I couldn't fix myself. I don't need to fix Ronnie at all. That's my point. Ronnie is independent. I'm independent. My life would become very meaningless without Ronnie. It would be very hard for me to live. I wouldn't call myself codependent on Ronnie. I would say that my life has meaning because of her. And that's the thing that gives everything I do, makes it special. It makes me get excited to get up in the morning. And so I wanted to make sure to acknowledge on your part, I'm not saying get over relationships. What I'm saying is don't go to the relationship because you can't give yourself the thing that you think the other person can give you. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's really important to mention.
Yeah.
I do. I do think I'm really adamant and say I need I put it so simply just because I think so many women are scared to say that because they don't want to appear codependent and they don't want to appear needy. And so, they say, oh, I'm independent. I'm fine by myself.
Wow.
I'm fine. And you're like, really?
See, I wouldn't believe that. That's funny you say that because it says the kind of groups we hang out with.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
because
right.
what I'm hearing you say, and I can hear that, it's like, I don't need men. I don't need a relationship. When actually you're not embracing that part of yourself as well.
Right.
Wow.
And it's to be honest, it's actually disheartening for me to see a lot of women out there saying that, priding themselves on their independence.
Yeah.
When in fact it's independence disguised as fear. It's fear disguised as independence.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Dawn, we've gone way over, but I always feel like we could spend another hour on these topics for sure. But
every month we're gonna have a new show
with Dawn with who she's triggered last. She disappeared. I don't think she intended to do that. Do you think she intended to do that? She just disappeared.
I think she said, "Fuck you, fat guy."
I would love that nothing more. I think we had a technical glitch. We'll get back to
this
Dawn.
backdrop, and I'm thinking,
We'll get back to Dawn again. I think what I'd like to do is pick out some of Dawn's posts, which we didn't get to, and then have another show on.
Yeah, I think it's nice to have like themes.
It's better to have themes, and I thought there were going to be so many themes, and I underestimated that.
And funny enough, we are next week we're having Natalie Grofelski, and she's talking. I don't trust men.
Yeah, I don't trust men. We get those themes on the show, don't we? They kind of come in. Yeah, we've got the I don't trust men next week. Yeah, wow. Well, what a great week this has been. It was really been
Monday is going to be an amazing show. Do not miss it.
Yeah.
We expect everyone to be there. Like a lot of comments.
Yeah,
we're going to unpack the 20-minute discussion that me and Andy had 3 episodes ago.
Yeah, we're going to discuss how we deal with triggers, where they show up,
defense mechanisms,
the whole gambit. We're going to do that on Monday.
And we're going to take at least I'm hoping we're going to take the 20-minute show that we did 3 days ago.
Yeah, and
we're going to be zooming in and out of it.
Yeah, just to discuss moments on the show. I actually I haven't watched the show, and I actually don't even really. I mean, we'll watch it for the thing, but I really like that. Like there were moments that I recorded in my head that if I told you now that I recorded it, you'd say, "Oh, you really recorded that?" And so I almost don't even want to watch the video because I think you'll say, "No, you couldn't have recorded that 20 minutes earlier." You know, like that was the way my brain was 20 minutes before we had the talk.
Love it.
So I'd love, I'll figure out how to do it so it stays authentic. Thank you for being with us this week.
Thank you, Andy Shalef.
And we see you next week on
a wonderful.
Okay.
Oh.